Bring back the laughter that we used to know when the movies were young, so long, long ago. Bring back the great clowns so sad, so absurd, as they made millions laugh, never saying a word. Bring back the proud cop, the pie in the face, the villain who's vanquished in fiendish disgrace. The chill of September has come all too soon. Through yesterday's magic, once more make it June. Bring back the laughter that we used to know in the dark at the Bijou so long, long ago. Bring back the flappers so useless and yet with a sweet silent beauty we can never forget. Bring back the wild chase that wrecked a whole town, the bashful hick hero with pants falling down. The chill of September has come all too soon. Through yesterday's magic, once more make it June.
Steam-driven elevated train puffs above New York's Cooper Union Square. The date is 1895, only a few months after the birth of the motion picture itself. What a sunlit, uncomplicated world was the horse-drawn world of the gay 90s. It lives again in these remnants of film. Caught and preserved by some forgotten cameraman, an Easter parade that began before the century's turn marches on still in stately array down yesterday's Fifth Avenue. Each era has its symbol, In America, the symbol of the 90s was Lillian Russell, a music hall singer whose full-blown beauty became a legend. Bedecked with jewels, presents perhaps from Diamond Jim, Lillian Russell's elegance perfectly reflected the elegance of her age. In 1895, workers bustled from the Lumiere factory to immortality in the first movie made in France. Soon after, the Lumiere's pioneer camera caught French soldiers cavorting in camp, a full generation before World War I. In 1898, the Rough Riders returned in triumph from the Spanish-American War. Viewers with sharp eyes may notice Lieutenant Colonel Theodore Roosevelt himself at the right. Within 3 years, vigorous Teddy, that damned cowboy, as party boss Mark Hanna called him, was President of the United States. A new age dawned all but unnoticed in 1903, when the Wright brothers rose from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, in man's first powered flight. The Wright brothers had many imitators. These might be called the Wrong brothers. As Winston Churchill recalled, the old era in its sunset was fair to see. This is Broadway in 1903. Traffic jams were undreamed of, but on the side streets, the first Nickelodeon movie theaters were already bringing inexpensive entertainment to all. On their screens could be found such titillating attractions as Chrysanthemums, made in Paris shortly after the century's turn, and featuring that enduring Parisian import, the shapely female. Chrysanthemums ends in a stirring merry-go-round of beauty, with Brigitte, Charmaine, Marianne, Fifi, Madeleine, and Irving. A good fairy waves winter into spring in this box office boffo of 1904. Another example of the early imaginative trick film from France. Successful European tours of the master American escape artist Harry Houdini inspired Slippery Jim, among the best of the fantastic films from France, and one still fondly remembered by old men who saw it as boys. One of Houdini's famous escapes was to be bound in a mail sack and flung to the bottom of the sea. Slippery Jim added a flourish of his own. year was 1906. In wit and ingenuity, the new art of the motion picture had surely gone as far as it could go. A cameraman drove down San Francisco's busy Market Street in March of 1906, little dreaming that within a month, nearly all he photographed would be ashes. On April 6th, San Francisco was shaken by earthquake, then gutted by fire. Buildings were dynamited to stop the advancing flames. With surprising vitality, San Francisco was to rise from her ruins greater than before. Slowly at first, then with the speed of a tornado, the automobile revolution swept America. These were the joys of motoring as pictured by the auto manufacturers. And this was motoring as it really was. For in all of America in 1906, there were fewer than 300 miles of paved country roads. But the trusty Tin Lizzie could go anywhere, do anything. Well, almost anything. The automobile had come. America would never again be the same. In 1910, it was still a man's world. By 1914, film manufacturers, as they were then called, were mass-producing photoplays, shooting comedies and dramas side by side on big outdoor stages. Nickelodeons, like the one shown here, had sprung up by the thousands almost overnight. Inside, you might see such a hit of the day as Mack Sennett's A Submarine Pirate, starring graceful Sid Chaplin, brother of the already world-famous Charlie. Starting... In The Pawn Shop, Eric Campbell, the portly, perfect villain, portrays a crook. Charlie is a shop assistant. In love on Laurel to a couple of rooms, the pawn shop demonstrates Charlie's genius. In 1917, the Holocaust, which had been raging for 3 years in Europe, engulfed America. President Woodrow Wilson's signing of the declaration of war was greeted by cheering crowds who looked upon the First World Conflict as the great adventure. Draftees and recruits lined up in hastily constructed camps for a training program which seemed to include haircuts reaped right to the root, and exercises which might have been designed by physical culturist Bernard McFadden. Soon, the first contingents of troops were beginning a journey that would carry them via a bridge of ships to France. World War I has been called the last of the gentlemen's wars, a time of parades and casualty lists, of high ideals and heartbreak, of slogans and slogging foot soldiers. Buy bonds. The cry was everywhere. Spirits soared to the blare of bands. In this fervent crusade to make the world safe for democracy, the celebrities of the nation spearheaded Liberty Loan drives. From Hollywood came America's sweetheart, Mary Pickford. The endless crowds that greeted Mary and other stars like dynamic Doug Fairbanks testified to the popularity of that young entertainment upstart, the motion picture. The best comedy of 1917 was Easy Street, in which Charlie Chaplin, as the little tramp, was inspired by the angelic mission worker Edna Purviance into making a fresh start. Easy Street, dominated by ruffian Eric Campbell, is using up the city's police force. Charlie answers the call. As late as the mid-20s, Chaplin considered Easy Street his finest film. Grabbing a pair of pants forgetfully left behind by the last policeman, Eric divides the loot. Everything for Eric. Entering Easy Street, the new arm of the law. Gas. Edna has seen it all. The words of this film's final subtitle expressed a suitable wartime sentiment. Love backed by force, forgiveness sweet. Bring hope and peace to Easy Street. (1918), the armistice. For this brief, bright day, nearly 50 years ago, the world seemed through with war. They sailed returning troop ships, their decks alive with cheering men. a victory arch constructed just for the occasion, triumphant troops paraded up New York's Fifth Avenue in a glorious, now nearly forgotten moment of time. Finally, caught in the flow of high emotion, the crowds could be contained no longer, but surged forward to engulf the ranks of happy boys come home. And then, in this most impersonal of cities, there was dancing in the streets. War came again quickly in the no man's land of Hollywood, where with hand-cranked silent cameras, the movies amazingly recreated battles that had just passed into history. Though Hollywood was bustling and growing, it was still a small town in 1919. On Hollywood Boulevard, James Cruise directed 1,000 extras in mob scenes for The Lottery Man, starring the most popular leading man of the day, Wallace Reed. That's Wally himself talking to Mrs. Cruise and admiring the Cruise baby. Also shot on Hollywood streets that year, though on a much smaller scale, was a little comedy called Lucky Dog. The obscure comedian being bounced from his boarding house had once been Charlie Chaplin's understudy. Some of you may have already recognized Stan Laurel in a day when his face seemed to consist entirely of eye makeup. Long believed lost, this film, Lucky Dog, marked the first appearance together of Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. Stan was a comedy star who had never quite made the top ranks. Oliver was merely a supporting player, specializing in villains. 8 long years of ups and downs were to pass before they were to play together again, to become the funniest team in the movies. Yet even here can be detected the style that was to make them famous. The frozen face behind the flame is that of Buster Keaton, second only to Chaplin among the immortal silent clowns. Buster is told to go hang a pennant. Keaton lived in the surrealistic world of the sight gag, where events had a dreamlike quality, and the dreams were often nightmares. Left on the launching pad. While refilling his balloon with hot air, Buster camps out. Downstream is another camper, lovely Phyllis Haber. Boy meets girl. In Buster Keaton comedies, heroines were always so helpful. Her hero. In the finest romantic tradition, boy and girl sail off together. The 20s brought radio and the magic of music from the air.
The bygones go bye-bye. No more will I sigh or cry.
The second gift of the 20s was less popular. Prohibition became law, and contraband liquor, diluted by a nation's tears, flowed down the drain. New words entered the language, like bootlegger and speakeasy. Remember the peephole? This was the Great White Way in 1920 at the beginning of the Jazz Age. Though movies had advanced from the side streets to Broadway itself, the most lavish signs still advertised the stage. By the 20s, Hollywood had the biggest studios, the biggest sets, the biggest stars, and its movies were circling the globe. In those golden silent days, there were scores of popular comedians, like Lloyd Hamilton. Enough short comedies were being produced to bring laughter to every theater in the land. Lupino Lane is the little fellow with the educated leg. Mrs. Carter DeHaven tells Mr. Carter DeHaven he's Santa's helper and sends him out hunting a free Christmas tree in the wilds of suburban Los Angeles. The year was 1922. The DeHavens, parents of a future star named Gloria, were favorites of vaudeville and the Broadway stage. Carter discovers when it comes to felling furtive furs, his chops afloat. exercising, explains Carter. I'm a woodsman of the world. Now the whole forest is going for a stroll. Carter has at last found a Christmas tree, one that neither walks, trots, nor runs. It does, however, trim itself. Stop, yells the crowd. That tree's a kleptomaniac. Here is the Café de No Tomorrow, where the champagne flows like horse liniment and the 20s really roar. To this Mack Sennett conception of Babylon comes nonchalant Billy Bevan in his role as Givney Gleeps, the sheep dip king. Through the 20s, Bevan was the busiest of the busy Sennett comedians. Thanks to his big cigar, the cutie on the swing soon resembles an airborne smudge pot. Leading star of Hal Roach comedy shorts in the early 20s was Snub Pollard, the little fellow with a Kaiser Wilhelm mustache worn upside down. Snub discovers that Wifey, with unfailing woman's intuition, has found the perfect love nest, aided by their friendly neighborhood real estate agent. Hubby signs on the blood-stained... Comes the dawn. Time time to row in the guests for the housewarming. Stardom in Max Sennett comedies and movie immortality came Harry Langdon, a unique clown who copied no one and whom no one could copy. In Smile Please, photographer Harry, the sweet baby adult, is bullied by a nasty adult baby. Little Durwood is 4 years old. With luck, he may someday be 5. Poor Dad, who's been taking it for years, can take it no longer. The worm turns and gets it on the other side. Lurking in the background of a long-ago small-time opera company is Buster Keaton, the least noble Roman of them all, about to be undone by an untied sandal. The film is Daydreams, which, like all his short comedies, was co-written and co-directed by Keaton himself. Fired in the middle of the fall of Rome. Did you see a little fellow in a crazy uniform? Asked the cop. I think he's one of those Bolsheviks. Alas for poor Buster. That ferry boat's not pulling out. It's coming in. Safe world had traveled fast and far from the 1890s to the height of these. Newsreel audiences of 1925 gasped in awe as a single Navy plane lay down a smokescreen to hide the approach of an entire battle fleet. Surely mankind could progress no further. To armchair military strategists, little dreaming of the atomic age, this was the ultimate weapon. These were the 20s, the era of wonderful nonsense, the flivvers and jazz, sheiks and flappers, hip flasks and flaming youth. Nightclub queen Texas Guinan's Hello Sucker was the rallying cry of the speakeasy age. It was a time to make whoopee with bootleg gin and never a thought of the morning after. These were the dancing years. In one forgotten contest, optimistic couples attempted to foxtrot from New York to Chicago. Dance marathons became the rage. In these sad spectacles of pointless endurance, the dance dragged on through thousands of hours from apathy to exhaustion. The Charleston caught the spirit of the 20s, and everyone was doing it. Emancipated womankind seemed out to prove herself more manly than the males. In Times Square, this little lady lifted a baby elephant. High overhead, another female balanced prettily against a skyline, which, in the 20s, was constantly enlivened by flagpole sitters and human flies. In Vienna, a dauntless Fräulein soared above the feats of puny man by utilizing the principles of natural construction. Her plumper bumper is a hock of rock. Hollywood was never more glittering than in these last days of silent movies. Jack Holt and Conrad Nagel were among the stars of the 20s, attending a grand premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater. At right is Cowboy King Tom Mix. Director Irvin Willett and his wife, Billy Dove, one of the screen's loveliest women. Dapper Lou Cody and his wife, beloved comedian Mabel Normand. In this rarest of scenes are director King Vidor, star Eleanor Boardman, star Norma Shearer, legendary producer Irving Thalberg, and the most famous of screen lovers, Greta Garbo and John Gilbert. The Great White Way gave off its most glorious glow at the height of the 20s, before the stock market crash, the grim 30s, and finally World War II turned down the juice. By now, movies were king along Broadway. Vast film palaces were coming into being, not on Broadway alone, but on main streets everywhere. From high in their vaulted interiors, projection booths still threw down comedies, the spice of every program. And most comedies ended in a chase, that oldest of film forms, polished to a new brilliance in a last flurry of action just before the movies learned to talk. Chases were of infinite variety. Here, the bookworm chase, with bicycling Charlie Chase reading on in total absorption through total habit. Jumping, hopping, upside-down chase. fire engine chase. The auto race chase, thundering on to a climax of frenzied destruction. The chase in formation. The world's worst best man. This Max Sennett comedy of the late 20s blended slapstick with sophistication. The minister is played by another Senate favorite, Andy Clyde. Your tie needs straightening, says Billy. Just follow me, orders Billy. I'll get that collar button yet. Standing on my pants, whispers Vernon. the ring. In this Hal Roach comedy, a perturbed flapper finds she's a dasher from a masher. The young lady asked help from Officer Oliver Hardy, looking naked without his little mustache. By nightfall, Dasher and Masher are old friends. She even finds him on her windowsill. A beautiful romance seems about to blossom if it isn't nipped in the bud by Oliver, the 24-hour policeman. Proudly studying his lines as Romeo in the local amateur play is Charlie Chase. Only one thing stands between Charlie and success on the dramatic stage. Charlie has pipe stem legs. Now, to use for padding. Ah, the bathroom sponge. Charlie orders several dozen sponges, rapid delivery. He's already late for the theater. Hurry, Romeo, urges Juliet. The audience awaits thee. Time passeth, but the curtain raiseth not. Where's Charlie? Alas, Charlie, needing fortification for his ordeal as an actor, has gotten a bit over-fortified. And remember, just drinking was against the law when this picture was made in the days of Prohibition. Uh-oh, those sponges. In more ways than one, Charlie's an old soap.
The chill of September has come all too soon. Through yesterday's magic, once more make it June.